fire, baby, let me dance for your love. I wanna feel your fire, fire burn, rising from the flames. Spell eyes only to burn again. Let me dance in the rhythm of your flame. If I burn, let me die to burn again. If I burn, let me die to burn again.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Get Lit. And I'm very excited today, as some of you may have seen in our social networking, that we are being joined today by a group of lovely sisters from the Red Tent Sisters of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. And I want you to know that the project that we're going to speak about is actually happening here. The sanctuary that I am taking care of this summer is called Fire Om Earth. And our precious hosts, Lorna and Craig Hirsch, they're presently in upstate New York doing the Renaissance Fair. However, this is their home all year round. It's a retreat center. And when they're here, they are making handmade drums, handmade flutes, whistles, an amazing pottery. They do leather work. They are amazing artisans, and they have several projects happening on this property. So I want to dedicate this show and gratefulness to Lorna and Craig and to Fire Om Earth. And so one of the projects that we've come here to gather about is the Red Tent Sisters have taken on an amazing project of raising a yurt. And this is all about the divine feminine, sisters coming together, women empowering each other so that we can be more empowered in helping in the world. And so I'd like to take a moment now to introduce the sisters that are with me today. We have, first I'll just name all of you and then we'll invite you to say a little bit about yourselves. We have Rebecca Clark, we have Janet Alexander, and we have Julie Norell. And Sandy Allison had to just tend to a little phone call session, I think, and she's going to come back and join us. And so I'm going to start with Rebecca Clark. If you'll honor us with just sharing a little bit about your beautiful self. And then go ahead and I'll tell you what, Rebecca, introduce yourself. We'll have everyone introduce themselves, and then we'll come back and have you do an introduction for the project.
Okay. You ready for me? Okay.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I'm Rebecca Clark, and I'm a massage therapist and a sound therapist in Eureka Springs. I did some specialized training in Maya abdominal therapy, and when I did that, one of the things they were telling is that because a lot of the abdominal therapy, it's a massage technique for the belly and for the mid-low back. And so there's a lot of pregnancy issues, there's digestive issues, all kinds of stuff. Because of the magic of the woman and the women's cycle and all, they were telling us ways that we could gather with other women. And the Red Tent was named then. Well, I didn't think a whole lot about it then because I didn't know how to connect with it. But a year and a half ago, I'm still on an email list because probably 10, 12, maybe 14 years ago, I did some studies with Brooke Medicine Eagle, who's a Native American teacher in the United States. And so I'm still on her email list, and she sent out a group email that she was going to be doing a free 5-minute video as part of a series that February for the Red Tent movement. So there's a movement for Red Tent. I'm connected, and then I started seeing those videos. But to go back to what I do, I'm practicing self-employed in Eureka Springs with a studio out of my home, and multiple different modalities that get mixed, and depends on what somebody comes to me for and what they need. Most recently, I added Ashiatsu, which is barefoot body work, and everyone who's tried it loves it. So we can do regular massage. I can do craniosacral therapy. I can do Maya abdominal therapy. I can do Ashiatsu, barefoot body work. I do sound therapy is really my specialty, and that's what led me into this field. I got a college degree in music therapy and worked in that field for 10 years. Found that I had more of a passion for using sound as an energy tool with the body. So to do that on a larger scale, I needed a way to get people into my studio, and massage school gave me license to touch. So here I am with a multitude of things to mix together, and making the best of that. It's working pretty well.
Yes, and I'm here to confirm. I've been under the healing hands and sounds of your voice, and you're an amazing healer. Grateful that you're in the world.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. And so now I'd like to introduce Janet Alexander. And one of the things I do want to make mention of first is that we recently had a project that was a fundraiser for the Red Tent Sisters. And Janet Alexander is a well-known theatrical director in our town. And she very gracefully and courageously took on the Vagina Monologues. And so, Janet, I want to invite you to say something about yourself. And if you'd like to speak to that in any shape, way, or form, we welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. About me, I'm a self-employed artist, also working from home. I work in practically every medium you can imagine, and I'm also an online marketer, so I have all the sides of my brain working for most of the time. Sometimes I don't know how brave it was to take on the Vagina Monologues. I thought it was really wonderful and powerful, and I just felt so supported by everyone else. I don't feel that I had to be courageous in any way. I just opened up, became transparent, and it worked. That's I don't know. I don't know what else. We could go into that later, deeper.
Yes, that is totally good for now. However, I do have to ask you, is that necklace that you're wearing, is that one of your designs?
It is. I work with copper and sterling and powder coating, which is almost like an enamel, but better. Thank you for noticing that.
Yes, you're absolutely welcome. All right, and then sitting beside me, I have Julie Norell. And go ahead, Julie, you're on.
Well, my story is a little bit different from everyone else's. I don't know how many people watching this are familiar with Eureka Springs, Arkansas, but we're a small community of about 2,000 people. And most of those people are sort of what some people might be called counterculture at one time. There's a lot of artists, a lot of healers here. There's sacred space here in Eureka, and it attracts the healing arts and artists and everyone who is involved in the creative process. Technically, I don't consider myself one of those people. I just moved here about a year ago with my husband, and we are both originally from Arkansas, so we were familiar with Eureka Springs. It's just sort of a vacation destination. And it just seemed like sort of a dream that we could ever move here. But my husband retired. He's a little bit older than I am. Actually, I am retired from Delta Airlines, but we moved here, and it was sort of a dream come true for us, because everything that, even though I've working for corporations and he has too always, we both of us sort of had a progressive sort of streak in us that never really got fed. I worked a lot in Little Rock in the environmental movement. I did some, at one time, back in the day, I did some Democratic politics until I got disgusted with that. But with the environmental movement, I really became really aware of local. I wanted to have local everything. And I got active in that. And it sort of was just a really good fit when we found Eureka, because it was the next step for me. It's everything that's happened to me since we moved here, including when we got our apartment. And I discovered the Red Tent Sisters weeks after we moved here. And I was trying, I need to talk to Rebecca about this. I can't remember exactly how it was. I'd read the book, so I was familiar with the Red, even though it's only, Red Tent Sisters is only loosely concerned with the book, but the book's very enlightening. It's feminist in a really unique kind of way. And but I just thought, ooh, here's a group of women I want to be more involved with. And I mean, it was just instantaneous for me. The minute I came in and met everybody, I just felt at home. I felt so safe from the very beginning. And that's what the Red Tent has been to me, just a safe place. And it's just been the most awesome thing. It's all about synchronicity for me since I moved here to Eureka Springs. And this is a part of my journey that I just had not expected. I hadn't expected this kind of inner transformation is what I'm going through right now, just since I joined Red Tent Sisters. And I can't think of a better environment to do it in than the sisters that I've been involved with. These are all so many awesome people in this group. I just love it. Thank you. And thank you, dear woman, for having us today.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely my honor to have you women here today. And yes, and share. It's an amazing place to be. And maybe, now we've mentioned Red Tent Sisters. Maybe, Rebecca, we could come back to you and you could give us a little history on the Red Tent Sisters. And that, in fact, it's an international platform, if I'm understood that correctly.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So maybe, and if I also understand, you were original spark for bringing this gathering together in Eureka Springs.
Yeah, it appears that's how it happened. So I'll go back to part of what I started to talk about in the introduction. I discovered the Red Tent movement through a series of videos that was put online for the month of February a year and a half ago. The woman who heads that up, her name is Deanna Lamb, and she has an international organization now called Red Tents in Every Neighborhood. I think that's what it is. And so she was coordinating all these videos that were online, and about the same time I told Lorna about it, so she watched some of them too. Well, by the end of February, I'd seen leaders, female women leaders around the world, things we don't normally talk about, how they grew up, experience of their first menses, what they were teaching their daughters now, and what kind of world they wanted to create. And by the end of the month, I was inspired, thinking, wow, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a red tent in your... And started just daydreaming for what I could do around my place. And then I thought, well, if that's going to happen, it needs to be built by the women of our community. And I've had an ongoing relationship with Lorna Trigg Hirsch from Fire Roam Earth, probably 6 or 7 years now, and we've collaborated together on Sweat Lodge and on a labyrinth there on the property there at Fire Roam. So I said to her on the phone one day, I said, what do you think maybe a place on your property for Red Tent? And that was all it took. She loved the idea, and so then we decided that we had our first gathering for Eureka in April that year. So that was April of 14, and 13 women showed up. We thought that was a pretty magical number. And inspired, we just decided to start meeting every time there was a new moon. So as close to the new moon as possible, we gather every month. And by fall last year, we were thinking, well, we need to start a fundraiser. Well, okay, let me back up once. At our first meeting, one of the women who came told us that she would donate a yurt that she has. And this is Marcy Brewster of a Wildfire Farm. So right away, the synchronicities began because right from the get-go, we didn't have to buy a yurt. Someone gave one to us. Okay, but then we do have to move it, and we had to put up a platform for it, so we needed to raise some money. So we decided to have the yard sale, and we coordinated it for a time when there would be a lot of tourist traffic through Eureka Springs, and one of our members owns the Joy Motel, so we set up over there where there was a lot of traffic around that corner. We did really well. So we got our platform built last fall, and then started brainstorming for how to raise a little more money so we could move the yurt, because we're all really powerful women, but we thought we needed a little more, a male stronghold to get that actually done. And so was by, somewhere around Christmas, maybe a little before, the idea just came up in one of our brainstorming sessions doing the vagina monologues, and Lorna says, well, the lady who did it before is in one of my classes, and Janet was there. So she went and talked to Janet, and as soon as she heard the idea, she said, yes, I'd love to do it again, you know. So we put on the vagina monologues in March, raised the money that we needed to do. Everything that has happened so far for our group has been so easy, like it's meant to be. Even setting up this particular interview that we're doing right now, when all of us just came on for a practice session the other night, we didn't plan that, it just happened. And everything happens, and so it's just like it's meant to be. So then I can give some history then of there's a book called The Red Tent, which I have with me here. I can hold it up if you want. It's called, the author is Anita Diamont, and The Red Tent. The Red Tent idea is loosely based on her book. The story in the book is a rather sad one. It's based on a biblical character named Dinah, and it's the story of women gathering during their moon time, their menses time, and gathering to help each other, to nurture each other, support each other, and vision together. Although there's been plenty of times in history when women they'd gather, but they were actually banished because of the patriarchy that didn't want to deal with the power of the menses, and so they made it sound like something dirty. And lots of women bought into that idea. So I think where we're coming from now is realizing that it's not dirty, it's actually sacred. We're coming back to the magic of being in these female bodies. So loosely based on the Red Tent book, Deanna Land started a movement to get a red tent in every neighborhood. And one more piece of history on that, the Native American cultures had moon lodges, and the women would gather there once a month at the new moon, because when people live under natural light, the women all bleed at the same time. What has happened in our cultures now is that we live under artificial light, and we have lots of unhealthy diets, and all this stuff goes together so that women don't always bleed together. But all of us know that if we work together, or if we spend a lot of time with a particular group of women, eventually we entrain with each other, and the bleeding comes at the same time. So in the Native American cultures, they would gather 13 times a year. They would prepare ahead each month. They would nurture each other with food, nurture each other with being together, with songs, and they would vision for their people. And every month they would come out of their moon lodge with visions, and then the men's role was to make things happen. The women would vision and get the information. The men would be the ones who would make everything happen. So then as the women aged, and they kept gathering in the moon lodge even after their menses quit, they continued visioning 13 times a year. So imagine doing this consciously 13 times a year, all of your life. By the time you're an elder, you're truly the wise women of your tribe. So this is kind of the basis and why we decided to gather on the new moon. So we gathered to take care of each other, nurture each other, help each other, talk through things with each other, whatever might come up that we can do for each other. And this practice not only honors the cycles of the earth, the cycles of our body, leads us to where we can truly become those wise women, the wise elders that, is what we all would much rather be than to have our elders put away in a nursing home. We would all certainly like the life lessons that we have gained to be honored. And through doing this, we have more to offer for that. So we're gathering as the Red Tent Sisters of Eureka Springs once a month to bring this into place.
Yeah, Rebecca, that was really well said. Are you still there? It looks like your picture froze.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, there you are. No, that was so well said. I just really feel you in my heart. And, I just want to acknowledge, let's hold this intention right now that the strength and power of our presence together and reminding one another of the stories of where we come from, may they ripple out to everyone in our community all over this planet. And I'd like to, at this moment, I know Janet and Julie, would you like to add to anything that Rebecca has just shared?
Well, I'd like to just add that when Rebecca was speaking, and that was very well put, it made me think about just the immense amount of power that has been ignored for centuries, forever, of women. I mean, we're 50% of the population, but we've got, our power has been crushed by men all this time. And I think that it's going to be coming back up through groups like this. Like you said, women have been gathering in groups for ages and ages. And I mean, you can't stop that. And maybe it's even a gift that we were banished by the men, because we, although that's how, through that we have gained our power and our connection. And I think in this society today, we don't see a lot of that, but I think we're bringing this back. And I'd like to also add about how organic and effortless this whole thing has been. It's only been a little over a year, and we've raised money. We have property. We have a year. I mean, it's come an incredible way with so little, not work. We've done a lot of work, but so little effort. It's just seemed to come one thing at a time, like Rebecca was saying. And that makes me feel so excited. It's just so exciting. I love it.
But, it seems that, granted, back in the 70s, we had a very strong movement, a very strong feminist movement. And these kinds of topics and ceremonies were being shared. And then over time, it also, it fell away. And so I think now with the planetary energies are really asking our divine feminine to emerge, it makes sense that there's a resurgence of that.
Yes.
I just want to check in. Janet and Sandy, are you able to hear us? It looked like you lost sound there for a while. Oh, you got to unmute.
Okay, yeah, we were having a difficult time hearing Julie. She stepped back a little far from the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, all right.
Sorry.
Yeah. And Sandy, since you've come back, we all had an opportunity to introduce ourselves and say a little bit about yourself and your participation in the Red Tent Sisters.
I forgot I was really on camera when I was going like that with Janet. I'm sorry. I wasn't being disrespectful from what we were saying. I was just, okay. Sorry.
No problem.
I've lived in the Eureka Springs community for 36 years. And knowing a lot of people, knowing a lot of people that have been here a long time. And my home situation changed when I lost my husband. And I started doing a lot of the community things that I did. My family's here, and so they just took up so much time. So I found myself in a position of wanting to do all the helping things and wanting to meet more people, more women in particular. So I knew a lot of women that were members of Red Tent that I really admired and respected, and Janet here had just joined them. I helped them not as a Red Tent sister, but as just someone that wanted to get in and help when they did the vagina monologue. So anyway, so I decided I wanted to be with these girls, and it's just been wonderful. It's been life fulfilling. We're learning new things. Every time we have a meeting, it doesn't have to be 25 or 10. It can be 4, around a campfire, clearing land, eating hot dogs off of a rake. Anyway, it's a wonderful organization, and I get so much from it every time that I'm with all my girls, all the sisters.
Okay, so I want to share a little information about that inside joke, the rake. I guess it was about a week and a half ago. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm at Fire Home Earth, and so I'm aware of when the Red Tent Sisters are gathering. And I knew they were down by the creek, and they were getting needed to prepare the road so that a trailer can actually pull the yurt up to the platform. So I joined in, and I was informed early, we're going to cut down brush, remove a few trees, and have a big fire, and then we're going to roast some hot dogs. So it came towards hot dog time, and none of us Girl Scouts had a knife on us. And we needed to, make the ends of the sticks pointed. And so Phyllis, who's not with us today, she did successfully whittle out with a very dull knife that we got up from the house. It was just a bad choice. And but we still had more hot dogs. So there was one of those metal rakes, the ones that go the length of about 14 inches and has about 12 prongs. And we got this idea, stick the hot dogs, right? Here's the prongs. Boom, 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 boom. And then all the hot dogs, we could have done 12 like that. And so we stuck the rake in the fire and grilled our hot dogs. And that's the inside joke about the rake. Now it's not an inside joke, but it's a handy way to toast.
And we'll let you use our tip. It's a great way to do hot dogs.
That's right. That's right. All right. And so as we're sharing some of these stories, is there anyone amongst us right now? Is there any particular stories you'd like to share that have? I hear each of you being empowered, and I can just feel the energy. It's just amazing. And I know we have a large community. Isn't there like over 100 women in Facebook with this? Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. And that's pretty powerful to have that many of us actually communicating and connecting. And for those who are listening, if you look along the broadcasting screen, you'll see there's the website address for Facebook. It's a group that you can join. And you'll also see that the Red Tent Sisters have a website. You can get more information in Eureka Springs. And we also have Fire Home Earth on there for those that would like to know more about the sanctuary. But I know that you just facilitated about 2 or 3 gatherings, and you had, if I'm not mistaken, you had one with the elders and then one with mothers and daughters. Maybe you could share a little information about those gatherings, the intention, and the kind of conversations you might have had.
Okay, I'll start. Yeah, we had the idea for the last 3 gatherings to have one honor one of the 3 major cycles of a woman's life. at each meeting. So in May, we honored the elders, and we invited those to come. Anyone over, we decided just to say anyone over 70, and then we gave them particular honor, gave them a chance to speak and to give us some of their wisdom. We supported them, we sang with them. It was a really nice evening. And then in June, so then it was time to honor the mothers, and we invited especially the young mothers in Eureka to come and join us. Carrie Mary was our host for that one, hostess, and we had a nice turnout. People who were looking for support as mothers, because they don't find a whole lot of that in our what's the word I'm looking for, in our society. And so we joined together for that support, and to exchange ideas and how do you do this or how do you do that, and help each other. And so then in July, the theme was for the maidens, and that was a smaller group, but as Sandy alluded to earlier, sometimes the smaller groups give more in-depth conversation. You can go a little bit deeper because everyone gets a chance to talk in the period of time. And so we did, that was the last 3 months focus. Maybe Sandy wants to say some more about that, or Julie. They were there.
Speaker on? Is my speaker on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, it was the maiden. It was very intimate. There was about 7 of us. And so when you're in a group like that, it's more intimate. It was more sharing of personal experiences. And it was just wonderful. It was magical. It always is. Mm-hmm. We start out with a chant that Cody had come up with, and then she just opened the whole meeting to us, as all of us older. Cody's in her 20s and Katie is in her 20s, and the rest of us were, I'm going to say 40s and above. If I put somebody older, I'm sorry. It's hard to tell sometimes, especially when you're my age. Everybody looks, it could have been 30s. Okay, we're going to say 30s and above. I was probably the oldest one there. Just turned 67. So anyway, we all really, really shared. Now, I know at some point they might have felt like we were lecturing mothers and grandmothers, but you open up the door, you got to accept what comes out. So, it was wonderful. It was really, really wonderful. And we ended our gathering with a song, and then we went up for refreshments and continued to talk. So, women, it's hard to shut us up. But it was great.
I think an important part of this too that Sandy touched on is we have focused, most of us are, being in this community in Eureka Springs, most of us are over 50, the core group who started initially with Route 10. But we branched out, and we are really trying hard to bring in younger women. We had a great turnout for the mothers. I met so many women I'd never met before, simply because their mothers, a lot of them are a little bit isolated because of that. And I think they even met other mothers and got to exchange ideas. And it was great hearing them because, I've been there, done that. And I know how I felt at that time. And I certainly didn't have anything that you could loosely consider a support group at all. Mm-hmm. And we're actively trying to bring different generations of women together and show them maybe, it's just something that I could have so used when I was in my 20s or my 30s. I have always been a person who's looked older women to see, when I was in my 40s, I didn't know how to be in my 50s. So I would look to women in their 50s and I would just observe them and go, okay, this is what they're doing. Will this work for me? And it's just I was always looking for role models my whole life.
Mm.
And I realized that I've come to the time now in my life where hopefully I can be a role model for other women too, younger women. And it's really interesting because my daughter is in her 30s and she's living in France right now. But at the very same time, again, goes with the synchronicity, the same time that I had emailed her and told her a little bit about the red tent, she emailed me back and said, Mom, this is amazing. We've got the same thing going on. We don't call it red tent, but there's 10 or 12 of us mothers who meet together. And she said, I came up with this idea. Nobody had thought about it before. And this is so amazing. This is just incredible.
Nice.
She's a member of the Red Tent now too, but unfortunately she can't make it to gatherings.
Well, and internationally, this is an extremely significant time to start connecting with women and being empowered. No
It
doubt.
is. It is.
Yeah.
I could say something more on that.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
Some may be wondering of definition of maiden, mother, and crone, and that question came up at our last gathering. So there's a couple of ways to look at it. One, you can look at the actual physical part of a life, the maiden being the one who has not started her menses yet, mother being the time of life while she has menses until it stops, and crone being after menses stops. But we were talking about the definition of maiden at our last gathering, and Cody offered that maybe maiden is before motherhood, but a time when a woman is coming into her own power and finding out who she is. And I like that. I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in a lot of ways we've lost our rites of passage, that time where we actually honor and acknowledge a maiden is going to go through her next change.
Yes.
And I actually see that for the men's culture as well. I think we've just overall culturally have lost those moments where you honor growth, you honor maturity, and at the same time, we could be honoring responsibility.
Mm-hmm. We could.
You know, I think, yeah, go ahead.
That's something that Red Tent can offer too, is ceremony for those rites of passage in a person's life.
Mhm.
And I see that coming in our future as we get more organized and get our space set up, that we can do that for each other. Somebody told me one time that they thought part of the reason that the young people were getting so many piercings was because it helped them in their search for who am I. But and part of that is because we stopped doing all these rites of passage for quite a while. I think rite of passage is very important for people when they're figuring out who they are. And so if we do ceremonies when a woman comes to her bleeding time and honor her and say how wonderful this is and have a party, then she knows what it means in her life, and she's not trying to hide away somewhere because she doesn't understand. And so it's really important that we do that. And for me, I'm thinking as we've moved through menopause into the crone stage, we may want to have a croning ceremony. I bet you there's a whole bunch of us in our group who've never done that. And
Right.
to honor that phase of our lives.
That actually, there's been a large group of women over in La Crosses outside of Fayetteville area, which is about an hour and a half from Eureka Springs, a large women's community. And they have, in fact, been celebrating the croning ceremony for, I think, over 40 years.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, there's quite a sister group there. But also what I'm wanting to come back to, what I'm feeling is so related, is the vagina monologues, our sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming obvious. One of the areas that I have researched is how our media, our advertisement is sexualizing our children. Now you're seeing 3-year-olds in sexy bathing suits, and the dolls have makeup, and it's just gotten way out of hand. And so I wanted to maybe bring the sexuality back into this picture, because even though going through our changes, we don't have rites of passage for our sexuality either.
True. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And
And it's
that-
like,
that I can say something on that if you want.
yeah.
That's an area that I know Lorna will speak to as she was here, because she was telling the story of meeting a young woman who was emotionally kind of out of whack and discovered she was on this birth control that makes you stop bleeding for 3 months at a time. And so it's going against nature and changes the hormonal balances in this woman's life. And so instead of trying to help women find balance and find how to be with this naturally, they're saying, let's make it go away. And lots of young women are getting messed up with that.
Right. I'd like to ask you, Janet, since you were so closely involved with the vagina monologues, like what was at the height for you of awareness, or, you know, what really stayed in your heart in this day and age with that topic?
I'm not sure how to make the connection here. When, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's here. Okay. Honestly, when I approached the vagina monologues, I approached it through a very professional manner. My job was to do the job. I didn't read into the experience
I gotcha.
anything other than I was working with this amazing group of women to present something of entertainment to people. I'm sorry if that sounds a little vague and surface, but that was my job, and that's what I did.
And you did it really well. You did it really well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say,
Thank you for your honesty.
that for her to direct and produce this production of Vagina Monologues, which was astounding. She had to internally get what the whole thing was about, even though she doesn't acknowledge it. I think that she did, you know. I don't see how she could have done the job without the material speaking to her. And I think the whole thing was so wonderfully put together because of her voice in the Vagina Monologues, along with Eve, which you did. You did. She's much too modest.
Okay.
I just don't know how to approach it on that level. I'm sorry. I
No
see
apologies. No apologies.
Did it well.
I will say that I will share one experience it was very profound for me. I'm not going to go into it too deeply because it was also extremely personal, and I know it came about from the safe feeling that I had working with the Red Tent Sisters, that I felt such a sense of security that I had not felt maybe ever. And I was in a gathering. It was soon after we had begun the rehearsals, working through the monologues, and I had a very powerful, personal, life-changing epiphany that would not have happened. I know it would not have happened if I wasn't in that space with those women at that time. And it's something that it's something very powerful that I now am having to address and pursue. So I feel like I'm just beginning to open up. I may be older, but I'm just beginning to open to woman power. It's new to me. So, yeah,
Nice.
this is new to me. I'm not 20 years old, but I feel like I am emotionally when it comes to this. So
that's a beautiful affirmation of what this circling of women, how it's helping us individually.
Yeah.
I mean, I was even, go ahead, Sandy.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. But I was going to
Well,
say
Go ahead.
it's that security of knowing when you come in the red tent that it is love and it's acceptance and it's not judgmental and it's all in the red tent, not taken out. This is my feeling. And so it's encompassing like the warmth of the mother's womb, actually, that you have this feeling that you can be who you are and you can be accepted. And we might not always agree with each other, but it's done with love. And
Well, I mean,
and no judgment.
We're really speaking to the essence of the mother and the divine feminine. We create nurturing environments where we feel safe enough to take risks, to be vulnerable. And that's not necessarily in our society in any shape, way, or form. So it's kind of like we're coming together to re-empower one another, knowing that's what we provide. That's who we are.
You know, I walked into the, I felt like I was caught by the red tent sisters in a moment in my life when I was falling. And even though people come to me and thank me for what I did, I feel like I was, it's just the opposite. They did for me. And it's been a very big life-altering experience again with this big women, this network, this amazing community that I'm watching. I've heard about this type connection in tribal or whatever. I've heard about it. I've never experienced it on this level. So call me a maiden. Because that's about what I feel.
Now that's
back
a really
time.
good point. I mean, that's a really good point, because maybe what we need is, if we're going to recreate rites of passage and initiations, we may want to go back to our maiden self.
Yeah.
We may, right? Or maybe a maiden feels like such an old soul, she wants to go right to the crone.
Yeah, there you are.
Options.
I have been learning from the younger people. It's amazing. The younger women in the group at the gatherings. So, yeah, you're right.
That would be just an awesome experience. It's kind of like finding your child self again. You know, it's like you just go in with your inner, and then let's say we take all the younger women, you know, there they are in their 20s, and we say, you're the elders today.
Yeah.
We got to ask them all the questions.
Oh, I like it. Very good.
Right? Yeah.
That could be fun.
Yeah.
Very
It
informative.
could. Yeah, because I was sitting here thinking, each one of us probably can go back to our younger years, and maybe we want to speak to this, and remember a time as a young woman you would have liked what? What could we have had in our lives that we didn't have?
We've had that sort of that discussion in a couple of our gatherings, as in how would life have been different if our mothers had been more awake to the sacredness of our cycle and been able to approach it from that point of view instead of telling us basically what we needed and that you can't talk about it.
Mhm.
Our lives could have been vastly different, and we can create that for our young women now by giving them that information.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question that you asked is exactly the kind of question that we would ask in a circle where we pass the talking stick
Yeah.
and we discuss exactly that kind of thing that just makes you think. I'd like to reiterate what Sandy was saying about the red tent being such a safe place. Again, it's just that is what it's all about for me, is the safety. And just about the vagina monologues, Janet, you are way too modest. Not only was it a huge financial success for us, we packed the auditorium for one of the very few times at Eureka Springs. The response from the community was just overwhelming. But even more for me on a personal level, not sure that a lot of the women in the group understand. We're all sort of at different periods in our growth. And for me, I've read a lot of feminist literature. I've been exposed to a lot of intellectually. But on a personal level, I just haven't been surrounded by the right people. I never have. And I haven't had a chance to put any of the things that I truly believe into action before. It shouldn't be a blanket statement, but generally. Now I feel so supported. And what I'm thinking of in particular here was the vagina monologues. That it was so uncomfortable for me when we decided to do that fundraiser. I'd never seen them before. All I knew had the word vagina in it. And I went onto YouTube and I started listening to some of those monologues. And I don't know at what level it hit me. It was just so visceral. I was scared. It was very uncomfortable for me. I was dreading when Rebecca would ask me to go out and sell tickets for it. I was like, can I even say that to my friends not in red tent? My sister, who's an engineer in Santa Fe, I just couldn't even. To do was I had to look at the women I had surrounded myself with. Again, there comes the safety. These women I respected so much and said, hey, if they're going with this, maybe there's something in this for me. And I had the courage to investigate it. And I came to the rehearsals and I made myself listen to them on YouTube. And I read some of the monologues, and more, it broke down barriers in me. And I think it has, not just me. If it's me, it's other people too. That I just had to get out there and I had to put my foot out and go, you know what? This is just language. That's all it is. We're just regaining language. We're going to take it back again. And I understand that concept. I've learned that concept intellectually a long time ago, but I'd never seen it in action. And it was tremendous. Monologues, tremendous experience to me. Thanks.
Right on. Bravo. That was beautiful, Julie. It's so authentic. And that there's lots of women listening going, me too. I was afraid to even let anyone see me buying the ticket. And you're bringing up a next point for me. Now, the vagina monologues, and for the audience that's not familiar, you can just Google it. It's another international happening, and it's very real, from the gut experiences of women's sexuality. It's just an amazing ongoing piece of art. But one of the things about the happening here is that it was equally attended by men.
Yes.
And it was amazingly supported. And I think what it created was a platform for men to experience and hear some of these stories from another just from another viewpoint, not necessarily their loved ones or who they were, who their partners were, kind of like broke the ice for some of the subject matter. And so where I'm going with this is I'm thinking about the Red Tent Sisters, of how, and the information, how might we want to, or what would we want to communicate to our greater community about the things that are coming up that we value, that we're learning about each other, that we might be able to ask for from our greater community.
Hmm.
All right, Julie's asking me to explain that some more. In other
Yeah.
words,
Yeah.
we're coming together in our sacred space, and understandably so, because it's giving us the strength and power to celebrate our more internal experiences. But we're also talking about empowerment of a woman when she goes back out into the world.
Right.
And it's just, I wonder, if we were to turn to our community and turn to the world, what things might we ask to have changed around us that could be an outgrowth of our empowerment? Of what would support us more in our community?
Hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like a circle question.
It is a circle question.
Maybe that would be a great question for the circle, is what can we ask the community to do for us after we've done everything that we've given to the community.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
really
this-
interesting. We're evolving, and it's just these things just happen just on their own. It's evolving, it's organic, and these things just like the show here, it's just amazing. I mean, who would have guessed we would be doing this a year ago?
Yeah.
So
Right.
this is, yeah.
It's hard to think about what you want somebody to do for you. It's easier to think about, well, what can I do? So I'm involved
And
with.
is that perhaps part of the healing of the Red 10 Sisters, is to really come back home knowing what we know? Because we are such the nurturers, the doers, but I think we've lost that balance.
Absolutely.
True.
But go ahead, Sandy, you had more thoughts.
Well, I was going to say I'm involved with an organization that is created to help women that are in abuse situations. And I know in our community, in our county, I would ask for the public to come together or our community to come together and to support the building or not the manufacturing, but a safe place, what do I call it? It's safe house for women. And now in Carroll County, they have to go out of state, or they have to go out of Eureka, out of Carroll County. So that makes a woman that has children in the school have to leave. She has to leave her job. And so it would be nice if and we're working on this, but that the county and the people actually admit and support the women that are in need like that.
That's
really
an
needed.
awesome. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what we ask of a friend to give us, but on a community level. From a friend, you want transparency and honesty and trust and helpfulness one-on-one. So why not take those things that we need to create a friendship and bring it over the entire community? Ask that from each other, just generally.
Yeah. And into that part of it and is that respect for the woman, and it's not what did you do to make this happen to you, but respect her position in her life. And that's what they really need. What we all need is respect and of what's going with us. I don't know, I'm putting it in the right words.
No, it sounds beautiful. I mean, I feel you, both of you, and I think you're coming through beautifully.
So, yeah. Okay.
What what it strikes a chord in me is I think a lot about the heart virtues, of gratefulness and forgiveness and compassion, humility, understanding, and courage. And when you were speaking, Janet, that's what came to my mind. It's like, yeah, I mean, we start with our friends and we ask for those they're kind of like moral guidelines, respect, reverence, transparency. And, and maybe it is something that would be more a group of women to acknowledge that again and make it a rite of passage in our community for all men and women and children, to maybe remind us, if we're moving into the reclamation of our divine feminine, we need to come back to those kinds of principles.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why the red tent is so important, because it gives a space to do that.
Yeah.
A safe space where you don't feel you're weird or whatever, A lot of times, which we use, I think a lot of, is our Native Americans that had a lot of ritual, in the women and the young men. You go out and hunt, and I don't know, I'm not real versed with it, but just similar things.
Well, my grandmother was the last surviving roll member of the Choctaw tribe, and I know that she was not allowed to speak the language of her people in her home by her husband, and as she was growing up too, she wasn't allowed to have those connections with her heritage. So there was a strong period of time that we were definitely yanked away from any of the celebratory gatherings that we would have traditionally, yanked away from those for whatever took its place, which I can't identify. But I know that it was hard on her. And she died when she was 98. And in her later years, she had been able to move back close to the reservation and be with her people more. But she was still very reserved in speaking of her experience because of so many years of having to suppress it. Mm-hmm. So this is the turnaround, baby. The Red Tent Sisters blooming in front of us and all around us. Maybe this is where we take it back. I don't know.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
that just kind of led me back to thinking a little more specifically about the structure of the red tent. We deliberately have sort of, because we are so keenly aware that the evolution that the Red Tent Sisters have gone through, and like again I said, the organic way in which it's happened, we're all sort of hesitant to put any structure on it at all. But the structure seems to come. It's been so interesting to me. We gather every month on the new moon, and we sometimes do stuff in between that too. But we have a formal gathering, if you call it that, on the new moon. And each month there's a different member who takes the lead. And each gathering, because of that, has a little bit of different flavor to it, has a little bit of a different focus to it. We do have in common that we have some kind of ritual, or we we have prayers that we use and that type of thing. But the topics that we sort of talk about, and again, this is one that Dear Woman brought up, is how Red Tent could be more involved in the itself. That's something we haven't specifically spoken to, but the things that come up in these gatherings are so often things that just have not crossed my mind. I mean, we have the people, the individual women that make up the Red Tent it's just fascinating in itself. I could write a book of it already. And I did, yeah, I mean it. I just learned more and more about everybody, and we all have so much history, and all a little bit different. And we can help us share that with the others when you're hosting one of these gatherings. And it's just, it's fascinating. I love it.
Yeah. Nice. That's beautiful. Yeah. There was a story I used to hear, and I love it, and it was a native Indian story. I don't know what tribe, but basically it was the grandmothers. You had to go to the grandmothers, to the elders, when the men decided they wanted, they needed to go to war. And if the elders, the grandmothers, decided no war, they wouldn't make the men their moccasins.
Oh. Great. That's great.
So, yeah, just to make a big leap here, I just thought, I'm just thinking out of the box, which is, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be awesome if city council had to meet with the Red Tent Sisters? And the final say, it was like, all right, do we fluorinate the water or don't we? And the Red Tent Sisters, and they come to the council and go, no, we do not fluorinate. And perhaps no one in the town will go and support any of the restaurants any longer if you decide to go in that direction. But anyway, it would just be so phenomenal. I just made a leap there just for the fun of it.
That's fun.
But
Yeah.
That would be great. Kidnap them all and put them in the Red Tent.
All right, sit down now. Do you hear what the sisters are saying here? So what sense may you have in some of the other things that you might want to open up on this journey with the Red Tent Sisters?
I think it's important not only for the women to gather, but for when the women gather, that gives an opportunity for the men to gather as well, and to be sisters and brothers and to support each other. So if when we gather, if the men are saying, well, what do we do? I say, well, you guys gather too. And and then when we come back, we're better, we're more whole, and we have more to share.
Yeah. I like that.
I do too. Yeah.
One important thing for me with the Red Tent has been, for me, coming to Eureka. I'd like to think that I've moved so many times in my life that I'd love to think that this is the very last time I've moved. I don't ever want to leave Eureka Springs. And I really see the structure of my future within the Red Tent. There are so many, I trust the vision of the women around here. I'm not very good at that yet, I don't feel like, but I trust the vision of the women here. And we've even talked about a women's community as we get older, a place where we can all live together. And I don't think that's unrealistic at all, because I know all of us or most of us are at a stage where we're having to care for our elders, and our parents are passing away, and we as the women bear the responsibility for that, and we see firsthand all the pain and the suffering that comes from the isolation of nursing homes and assisted living, and just the way that our society in general just denigrates elders. I mean, we don't, you're useless once you're out of the workforce.
Well, we've also lost, and what the Red Tent Sisters is providing is our intergenerational community. And we still have our elders put away in these residential centers. And in fact, I'm hearing that conversation come up a lot in this community, because we do have a large community that's 50 and older as well. But I've heard a lot of our elders starting to really talk about that. I mean, knock on wood, they still have their health and they're able to stay in their homes. But I know that we share acquaintances, or more than that, friendships with some dear sister elders in this community that are already having elsewhere. And so we haven't really built that community yet.
No, the structure of what we're doing with Red Tent is in formation stage right now. And so, we don't know where we're going with it yet, but we're trying to be open and connected to each other as we create it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the wonderful thing about this too is the connections that we make within the Red Tent Sisters. For instance, I was very involved with Occupy Little Rock at that time, and a lot of people will look back at Occupy and say, "Well, that went nowhere. What a waste of time." Well, I don't feel that's true at all. There were a lot of I'm from Little Rock, and there were so many people who'd never been active politically before. There are so many groups that are a direct result of the Occupy movement, and it's just by making connections with like-minded people. In the Red Tent, I found my tribe, and I think a lot of women feel that way here.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I don't agree with everyone about everything, but I share the same idea of a future, I think, with the women that I've met here.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives me so much hope that I didn't have before. Before I felt very much out on my own, isolated. It's our capitalistic society is dog eat dog out there. That's just the way it is. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Nobody's going to take care of you, and that gets really scary as you get older. And you see people falling through the cracks, and you go, I don't want that to be me. I don't want that to be my family. I don't want that to be anybody that I know. I want us all to be here for each other. And maybe that's a little too utopian, but gosh, that's where you kind of have to start. And I feel like the Red Tent is going to do that on some level. Maybe, I don't know. It's evolving. So, but I love the connections I made here.
It is evolving. Mm-hmm.
Maybe, go ahead, Sandy.
I was just going to say, it's exciting that, that you can that we can think of these things and bounce them off of each other and put our ideas and our dreams out there and feel like, it might happen, and let's work toward it. So, Julie, it's going to happen.
My hope is that we have viewers that are in the community, or maybe even viewers not in the community but nearby, that some of these sharings are starting to resonate in your hearts, and that maybe there are other sisters out there that have been wondering, where can I get my support and who can I be vulnerable with? And I'm hoping that this conversation is opening up the safe space that the Red Tent Sisters has created, and that more and more of the women's community will know that they have a safe harbor. And as you can see, we've been all over the place, so every aspect of conversation is invited here, and some really beautiful ideas have been shared. And maybe at this point, you might want to share what are some of the upcoming projects that, let our community know that this is going to happen. We could use some help here or there.
Okay, well, no. Julie, have something? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, I was just going to say the thing I'm most excited about right now is just getting the yurt in place. Like I could mention, we already have a yurt that's been given to us by
Right.
Marcy,
Right.
but and we've raised enough money to build a platform. We're clearing the space, as you know, you've
Mhm.
helped us, and we're clearing the space up to actually put the yurt in place
Mhm.
here on Lorna Triggs property. And I think we're all really excited about that because it's in the focus on the yurt sort of comes as part of the vision, but also because for me, the idea came from the Red Tent Sisters movie that we saw. And
Yeah.
because they were all in this beautiful enclosed space in a yurt, and it was with red draperies everywhere, and it just, there were cushions on the floor, and it just looked like something out of Morocco or something, and it just looked so incredibly welcoming. And in fact, Lorna here at the retreat center has a space upstairs that looks amazingly like what I envisioned the yurt, the red tent yurt to look like. So
Mhm.
that's what I have in mind. I don't.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and does the women's community know all that's being invited into that yurt once it's constructed?
We've been putting it out there.
Right.
So, there may be other ways to put it out there, but we just keep all talking to the people we know and
Right.
letting them know, inviting them to join us. So
Maybe
we're, go
Take
ahead.
this opportunity. This broadcast is going to be archived and available on the internet. Maybe take this opportunity to just share a few of the things that are going to happen, or what women how they could participate in that.
Okay. Our next gathering is set for August the 14th. Sandy Allison, who is on our screen today, is going to be our hostess for that one. And she might tell you a little bit about the program in a minute. So that's our next New Moon gathering. I think Julie might be able to tell me for sure. I think the road is cleared for the yurt now, right? Or is there a little more work to do? We're getting really close.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe a little bit. We're getting really close. Our man his crew is gonna move the yurt. We're waiting for his go ahead that he's finished another job and then he'll be ready to move our yurt. So it's all getting ready to happen. In the meantime, if there's anyone out there that wants to help us finish clearing the road, there's not a whole lot left to do. That and each new moon we're gonna gather. So come and join us.
Okay.
And I'll be doing another production next spring for the Red Tent.
Oh, look at that. We got something to look forward to next spring,
Right.
another production.
Wow, I don't know anything about that.
But Sandy should tell us about her
August.
program for August too.
Yeah.
August is, the new moon is on 14th. It's on a Friday. And I have, through a Red Tent sister that actually lives in Tulsa, was introduced to this young woman that is a member of Warrior Sisters. And it's a nonprofit group, and what they do is go around to just any place that, they can get women together and give them a workshop or a mini production of self-defense.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. My old brain is slowing down. Self-defense, and it's physical and verbal. And it's our program will be about 2 hours long. And it's going to be on the platform, and we're going to have tiki lights and candles, and it's going to be fun, but it's going to be empowering. It's going to be not only something that you can physically do, but how you can present yourself to where you don't look like a victim, like walking, that you don't look vulnerable. And so I'm excited about it, and you don't have to be a Red Tent sister to come. I've been just telling anybody and everybody that wants to come and join us to come and experience the evening. I think it's going to be fun. I think we're going to have a good time, and we're going to learn. I mean, we live in a safe, I feel like we live in a very safe community, but we're not always in a safe community. We go out to bigger cities, and our young women are going to be going off to college, and college campuses are very scary nowadays. It's not this safe haven as we always thought it was, or even high school, but it's going to be great. And, if it goes well, we'll do it again for those that didn't get to come. So
that sounds
what's coming up.
amazing. Yeah, what a wonderful offering. And, maybe to just give everyone a little more expansive idea, Fire Home Earth has, it is a sanctuary. It is a retreat. It's an environment that is really held in very beautiful energy. It's plush. There are plants and trees and walking trails. So this yurt is going to be within this nurturing environment. And so my understanding is that when women, it doesn't have to be necessarily a gathering. Women are welcome solo to come and know that there is a space that you can sit in, relax, meditate, be quiet and peaceful. And so, and as each and every woman goes to that space and has that experience, the energetics of it are just going to expand. It's going to be like the womb that's getting more and more nutrition,
Yeah.
and it's healthier and healthier. And so know that now will become, usually pretty short distance from anyone living in this community.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it is a wonderful place to be. Maybe Janet can tell us more now about her upcoming production idea.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, I'd like to.
I haven't pinpointed it yet. I'm still reading scripts, but I'm aiming for a large-scale production in the spring to supplement our funds for whatever projects we have going on at that time. And to protect production like the last one, I would like to have the group. We had 42 women working together on the last show. It was brilliant. And I'd like to see that happen again. The community that formed just around that was one of the best experiences I've ever had with theater. So I think we can recreate that feeling and maybe make it permanent.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, it does. It's such a good source. It's such a good outreach source too, because a lot of people, I would say most of the women, don't you think, Janet, who came into audition for the Vagina Monologues weren't even familiar with Fire Home Earth, much less the Red Tim Sisters, and we got so much more interest in it through that, and it was just it just pumped new blood into the Red Tim Sisters. That's the way that I felt. And it's so different. It's just you, especially, I mean, everyone has little pockets, different pockets of expertise, different pockets of interest, and they bring that in, and you get to see a little bit, almost on every gathering, we'll see a little bit of what somebody has to contribute. Like I said, every gathering is a little bit different, but we have one thing that runs through all the gatherings that I've seen is that theme of empowerment. I think that's one thing that we do have all in common that we want for each other and for the other generations is empowerment. That's it. I think our time has come.
Yes. We're all ready for that.
Do we have anything else going on in this community that is empowering women that you know of?
Hmm.
I mean, I know Lorna, there's full moon circles. They're usually integrated, men and women.
I don't think she's doing those right now. She did for a long
Okay.
time.
Right.
The energy's been going into the new moon circles right now
Mm-hmm. Okay.
for the, and so red tent. But yeah, she did host a full moon circle for many years, but it's shifted now into the red tent gatherings.
Right. Okay. Now, I do know that one of the upcoming projects, it's not necessarily woman focused, but it is the Divine Feminine. I know that Lorna is going to be working with Dakota, and they already have established having native medicinal plants here in the sanctuary.
Yes.
My understanding is Dakota has established an academy, has already done this before, an academy of native medicinal plants, and they're going to be working on that project here. So that means the apothecary here is going to grow,
Yes.
and the workshops on how to take these healing herbs and make tinctures and salves, that's going to expand. So this is really going to become an environment for medicinals to share.
That's really exciting too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So where we have the Red 10 Sisters, it's like energetically we're creating the medicine of the sisters, the medicine of women, and then the sacred empowerment of our bleeding. And then we have the sacred empowerment of the plants and the medicine. And of course, the entire environment is held in that light.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a vortex going on here of grounding in the mother.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a lot to be said about women coming together in this day and age right now. We need our strength. We feed, we nurture, and we love so deeply. We create, we give birth. And as we honor, again, these sacred arts that are a given of our nature, that's the way we know how to heal.
Mm-hmm.
That's how, we heal everyone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that support gives us the strength to do what we know to do. The support of the group, the support of our sisters. We're not alone.
Right. And everything we've shared here today is a message to every woman on the planet. It's what we are celebrating and what we're reclaiming is for everyone.
Yes.
And as a result of our empowerment, the men and the children, it's a given that they're taken care of.
Absolutely.
It's just a given.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And there are many, I know I've listened to many radio shows and seen some archived videos. There's many medicine men in our world that have done some extensive research back to our roots and are resurfacing for all our benefit how the woman originally was very revered, very respected.
Yes.
And we've when we talk about healing our planet, often you hear we want to go back to that simple way of living, remembering, the most important things are our food, our water, our shelter, and fire. And there are some very old and ancient ways that men and women have coexisted in such a divine celebration. And so we're all, we're all reaching back and replanting those seeds again. Yeah.
Yes, we are.
One person I do want to mention, Robert Morning Sky. You can Google him. Oh my gosh, he tells a story of women being honored that it makes so much sense. It's so understandable. And all it is that each of us in our male or female form remembers why we're here, what our particular purpose is to each other. And, admittedly, you have to step out of the material world to remember those things, which is basically, we're saying about the Red Tent Sisters. It's like we're stepping out of the material world to remember and empower who we know we really are. And we're even offering to our brothers,
Right.
and they've done it. Brothers have met, but to remember who they really are.
Very important.
Yeah. Very important. So is there anything else, sisters, that you'd like to share or communicate about everything we're doing together?
I want to say I really have enjoyed doing this today. A new experience. Thank you.
Stephanie,
Thank you for
yes.
getting us into this.
It's really beautiful. I know none of you have really been familiarized with the Zoom room. And like you said, the other day, it was like magical. Here we were in Facebook. And I'm going, hey, this would be really cool to have you on the show. And everyone's like, yeah, and then I started sharing about the Zoom room, and all of you just like, that was another example. It was just like that.
Yep.
Everyone figured it out. It was so amazing. And so I do want to acknowledge that we will, in fact, when Lorna returns, I would love to invite the Red Tent Sisters again with Lorna on board. And of course, in a couple of months, we'll be even further along in the project. But that, this is a beautiful opportunity because we're getting to share our spirit here together. Those who are viewing, they're feeling us. They hear us working things out and asking questions.
Yeah.
So again, and a reminder that once we have closure with this show, this will be archived. It takes our producer a few days to get it processed and then available, and then I will put it in our Red Tent Sisters Facebook page as well, because I put it out on Get Lit and everything. But maybe I'll just take a moment to share with everyone. I just want you to know that CCN, Conscious Consumer Network.tv, is a platform for alternative media news and programs such as the one we're experiencing right now. And one of the beauties and empowerments of CCN is we do not accept government funding or corporation funding. And the reason being, we never have to compromise the content of our programs. And no one is censoring us in bringing authentic truth and our real story forward. So we always ask our viewers, if you've enjoyed this show, to please go to effiemarket.com and make a contribution, make a pledge. And then for all of us who have participated in this program, afterwards, if you'll encourage people to, hey, you can still go and, give $5 here or $100, whatever you can, so that we keep this platform going. And I encourage everyone, go to ConsciousConsumersNetwork.tv on a regular basis. They're running something 24/7, and we've got now about 35 programs in all different genres. And I heard recently for our youth, haven't gotten to watch the show yet, but we have one called Crystal Kids, and there's a young woman, all of 15, is the host for the program. So please explore after we finish the show. And I always love getting feedback. So if you go to the Get Lit Facebook page, Get Lit Show, please add your comments there. And, you know, we just like to know that you're watching and you've actually tuned in and you know, those likes and shares and all that. That's really helpful in the promotion. So I think, unless would you like to have some parting blessings, messages to our viewers, and we'll wrap it up.
I think, yeah, I would. Just like to reiterate the connections that have been magical that we've all made. And as Julie said, we've broken down barriers, gotten to where we're free to talk about things that wouldn't necessarily be something we would talk about with each other otherwise. We, you know, in our circles, we get to talk about how to support each other, both physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and all of that. So there's many ways to look at that, and we're really, you know, enjoying that process. So anyone who's looking for that, come and join us.
Nice message. Thank you. Thank
I mean,
you.
yeah, rather than giving details, you know, that's for a circle where we talk about exactly what you need to do for, not need to do, but what you can do to make your life richer.
Right on. And Janet, would you like to have a parting message for our listeners, viewers?
You gotta turn on the.
Oops.
I gotta turn.
No,
We are on.
We're on. Okay.
I don't have a specific message for anyone except myself, and that is that I'm looking forward to more involvement with the Red Tent Sisters personally, and growing. I feel like it's a perfect place for me. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. And Sandy, there you are.
I'm about the same. You know, it's about it's about all the possibilities and love and sharing and giving, and it's all kind of new to me, and I'm loving it. And I think anybody else should come in and join us.
Yeah. Right on.
Thank you. Thank you for this platform.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome. And thank you to Biggie and Mel V, our co-producers, and Julie.
Yes.
Thank you to Biggie and Mel V, and thank you to Dear Woman here, who has so graciously invited us to her little show. But I was thinking when you were talking, Lorna is gone for the summer, and Lorna was one of the core members, and she is the proprietor of Fire on Earth. But the next time that we have a show like this, we can be doing it from inside our new yurt. And I'm really excited about that. I look forward to that.
Well, we'd have to figure out internet.
Sorry about that.
But who knows, you know?
If it's meant to be.
It will be. I love that, though. That's a great idea, too. That's a great idea, too.
I also want to say thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No, this has
Thank
been
you,
an
Joanne.
honor with, yeah. And for the viewers, you haven't lost Rebecca Hahn. She is the co-host with me on Get Lit, and she's had business that she's had to travel this month, but she'll be back soon. I guarantee that. So everyone, I'm just so grateful. It's been an honor. And just hang on a moment after Biggie brings our session to a close. Hang on a moment, and we'll regroup after the show just to have a little chat. Okay?
Sounds good.
I think we're right on the mark. We are saying goodbye to everyone. We love you. Mwah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.